Hello world. Um, yeah. So, uh, what's the episode? Um, I just want to see what I titled it. Living from memory. That's episode 1 on living from memory. Okay. So there's a live stream that I titled 31 October 1995, which is my birthday. And in that live stream, I am living from memory in that moment. I allow the recollections in real time as I chunk them and encapsulate them, and I speak them. Sometimes it's called stream of consciousness. I'm not really used to it like that, so it takes time when I sometimes put together the impulses that are coming. You know, when someone is flowing in a freestyle, they are doing the same thing but at a much rapid rate. You know, someone like Harry Mack is doing it at a much higher rate, because you consider the fields of information that he is interacting with, from the words he has to keep in mind to the people in the crowd and what they wear and how they sound and what he made up in his mind beforehand in the interaction when he was collecting the words. And you realize, like, yo, this nigga is like, what? Ne? So yeah, that's pretty much like the beauty of the level at which Harry Mack does it. And I don't know if somebody else does it at that level like Harry Mack, but Harry Mack does it. Yeah. So that's pardon me. That's like the first part on living from memory. It's just realizing that this is a different form of computing, of cognition. It's less reactionary. Like, I am definitely reacting within, because I'm reacting to the words that I'm getting as they come out. I'm not really doing it with much effort. I just let go and know that everything I throw will grow into like beautiful meaning, because this reality is constructed with meaning. So all you have to do in order to manifest the highest form of meaning is let go to bias, right? And that's the game of words and worlds that we play. That's the game of words and worlds that we find ourselves in. And it's convoluted in how it's constructed for a black person with melanin content such as myself, or even more, when your background has history in a blatant form where it was law to be hated, it was law to hate, it was law to segregate by virtue of skin color, to the point that they created economic systems that were built on the very premise they stacked the odds against us. They stacked the odds for themselves. They represent the house to me and my kind. And you see those wearing my skin who have made it beyond to the finish line. But they're still playing along, and I'm still playing along for the fact that I'm still alive. And that's not to say we should all go and off ourselves, but it makes us wonder if we ought to change so radically that it feels like death, something akin to a psychedelic experience, what others call an ego death, you know? And when we do that, we realize that there are worlds within words, that vibrations really matter, that the resonance of the building has an impact on the people that are staying, that if you stack up people in high population density, it'll result in a form of insanity. And the internet gives us a form of this. In a way, they've managed to create barriers. We're not really playing in the same field. I have an information bubble that I travel around with. It was not of my creation. Google gave it to me. It is similar to the aura that I carry in reality, the one that I can play with at my will, at my time. If Google could alter this, then there would be a higher form of entity, and that should tell you what I am, because I am a higher entity who can do this with his bubble, just play around with it like that, expand it, touch people afar without sending my voice, without throwing a stone or shooting a bullet, a 9mm hollow point. I make the point, touching them with my field from afar, make them feel like somebody standing, breathing on their neck. Just by thinking it, because I have had experiences that have shown me that there are many auras in my body, that I am an entity made of billions of particles who could have sentience if I allowed them to, that there are different forms of lifestyle existing in different systems, from the mitochondrion in my body to the gut bacteria, the flora I call so gently around my skin if I allow it to grow, how my locks allow me to connect to the ether. It wasn't always like this. I wasn't always living from memory. I was reacting to the pain of the past, the many things I have seen, ignoring the knowledge until death slapped me in the face in the form of a friend from a distance who revealed things to me, because his name is Revealer. Oh my word. So that's again episode 1 on living from memory. I wonder if I should let go of this form of expression and go on to episode 2, where we discuss the reverse, but I don't really have to leave this section, because we can still discuss the reverse in the same video. So I'm gonna go ahead. You see, now I'm showing you the fractionation and the placement of the awareness, how it can sometimes delve into the concept and get seemingly lost in it, but still be going in the same spirit and energy of the moment. We go as we intuit, right? That is living from memory. So living from memory is not necessarily remembering. This is a different kind of memory that I am showing. I actually wanted this to be episode 2, where I show you how to live from memory unknown. Memory unknown, that's an experience that is almost psychedelic in nature. That's like major. You think these are words I'm throwing. I've said so many things that are so significant, but it's insignificant because of what significance is my being in all of this. You know the amazing thing? When you finish off the journey that Biko was undergoing when they killed him, it's funny how they had eyes back then with less cameras. It seems like let's not discuss principalities level just yet. Let's keep it at the powers. Leave the rulers alone. So yeah, that's living from memory. So yeah, as I'm doing this, I'm realizing that I've not been living from memory. That's why I called this episode 1. It might be episode 1 for you, but it's also episode 1 for me to follow your dreams. Is like, how, bruh, when there's so many things seemingly stacked against you? But You just will it. That's what they'll all say. Ultimately, at the end of the day, whether you read it through 7,000 pages of scripture, it'll still be will it. Whether you intuit it from the universe, it'll still be will it. It's actually frustrating when you intuit it from the universe. The question I'm having now is, would I exist if I was purely routine memory? Would I still be me? Especially if those routine memories were defined without my consent. It's one thing for me to sit down and create an entire narrative for myself. It's another thing for me to be born into a known oppressive regime's remnants of a system that wasn't entirely dismantled because everybody was in a rush to play reconciliation. Not to say that they should have gone in a different direction. I could care less. I was less than 1 year old when you was doing that, dog. That's on you and your generation. It has nothing to do with me, fam. I have seen worlds, man. I've seen worlds within worlds. I know the God, the guiding our direction, as KRS-One revealed it. Knowledge reigns supreme over nearly everyone except for Chris, because Chris is anointed and you are anointed if you are uttering these words. By virtue of how vibration works, it has nothing to do with voodoo or hoodoo or whatever you decide to call it from the walls of your bias. It's all just knowledge and understanding at the end of the day, and with the correct context, you start to understand that it is all one, and this suffering doesn't really make sense from a mathematical standpoint. If you read the numbers, you wouldn't find this. Not that I can read the numbers with that much specificity, but the God that the numbers show me is beyond the pettiness that I see manifested in reality. And it's all just information fields at the end of the day, because when numbers get too big, we use words. So if you want to go deep, because the words are too convoluted, we dive into the numbers, which is why they make us hate mathematics, just giving it without understanding. I'll give you the fundamentals. Not that I am a professor of maths, but I understood the fundamentals from trying to play their confusion games. They had confusion games. So, yeah, the fundamentals. The number 1 can be manifested by one cell phone, or one orange, or one apple, or one toilet paper, or one, and so on and so on and so on, right? The number 2 can also be manifested by different objects, different combinations of objects, but ultimately the objects manifest the field, right? Because if you argue that we humans created mathematics is just a construct, it's just a language that we use to describe reality, I will ask you what is not. But before I do that, simply understand what I am saying, and you will see the futility in uttering such an argument. What I am saying is, the number 1 existed before a human tapped into it and manifested it on a piece of paper. We are just objects manifesting fields. The beauty is we can create fields, but you only call it creation when you don't understand the dynamics of it, because ultimately at the end of the day, it's all just listening. Somebody said this on some channel I saw. Probably gonna plug the link if I find you in my history, bro. Sorry I couldn't mention your name. It was a while ago when I saw the video. Didn't really watch all of it, I think, but I understood from the sentence you uttered in the title. So if you look at the Kabbalah, the tree of Sephirot by the Jewish mystics, those 10 Sephira, probably got a place and image somewhere there next to the dreams. Unless if you're familiar with the image. If you look at the first 3 items, if you place them right, firstly, you gotta do the correct placement. Like the model where there's Keter at the beginning, and you have Keter, Chokhmah, Bina in the supernal triad, is not correct. At least if you go by the scriptures of the mystics who have created that system. The scriptures those mystics draw from says that wisdom was the first of God's creation. Chokhmah is what Elohim created first. So if Chokhmah was created first, then you place Chokhmah at the top, and then you're not gonna have the issue of the imaginary Ta'at because a bunch of lines cross together. Nah, fam, Ta'at just gotta be there. So if you do your placement right and you eliminate Keter altogether, because Keter is the void of the page on which you represent your representation of the manifestations of reality, which is what the tree of Sephirot is. So I'm looking at the tree also from the side of my fridge there, because I drew it with the non-permanent marker just to recollect how seemingly useless it seems when you don't discuss it with people, when you're not daily engaged in a reality where you are expounding. Firstly, before we start expounding, Chokhmah, according to the scriptures of the mystics who have created this system, is the first of God's creation. If you read Psalms, that's what wisdom says when she describes herself. If you read all these other things, remember, I also mentioned Mindshift at the beginning of this. So was that a separate episode? I'm not sure. But Mindshift on YouTube with Brandon's channel, awesome sermons. I also, nonetheless, as he says, there are useful things you can find in the scriptures. This is one of them. Chokhmah is the first of manifestation, in a sense. So you're going to create your system, place Chokhmah at the top. By the way, the reason I'm using this particular mystic system is not because it's the ultimate mystic system and yada yada yada. It's because when I attempted to create my own, I realized there was too much effort to spend on synthesizing a visual image when you had never even learned to think in that form or system. Because this thing developed over like centuries. Yes, the person may have initially shared the idea of the Sephirot and somebody else built on it, or the Zohar. Let me not go into the history of that because I've yet to delve really deeply into the history of Kabbalah. I've just been approaching it from a point of, okay, how are you different from what everybody else is offering? Because that's what, for me, this life is about. It's just the pursuit of knowledge. It's just that when you realize how tainted the knowledge is by virtue of the configuration you are born into, it's kind of disheartening, to say the least, until death comes and like slaps you in the face, which is messed up, I guess. Yeah, it's messed up. But yeah, that's the configuration of the game we're in. We are all born and we are named with words. The words I was named is Tolani, Mabula, peace be upon you, he who always divines or he who always thrashes. And if I'm translating it for you, Assalamu alaikum. If I'm translating it in Islam, Shalom Aleichem. If I'm translating it in Hebrew, at least as they say it's Hebrew, etc., etc. And it's the same energy field, but from different languages. So I approach it with no bias, even though I know the system has flaws. But I noticed that when I was growing up, everybody was just doing it like, this is how it's supposed to be, man. Like the Bible says, we was born to suffer. Yeah, but not really. A creature who is born ignorant with the capacity for knowledge is literally born suffering. And as they acquire knowledge, their suffering ceases if they are able to exercise that knowledge. And knowledge is relative to the interests of the individual, and no two individuals are composed the same, because since no two individuals are composed the same, everybody has a unique system of acquiring knowledge, of learning, and that's why they are unique in how they express, or how they sound, or how they express in all the forms: visual, auditory, kinesthetic. So, living from memory, those were unstructured memories that I was giving you. In the moments we have had so far, I started with structure initially, and the structure was to explain what living from memory is, as a way to explain living from unknowing, or living from memories of the future, which is hope, I guess. I've been struggling with that one. You see, if I could maintain this energy, this energy right here throughout for like 24 hours, for 21 days, I think I'd be good. I know I can do that, like by automatically. It happens whenever you're in the mountains, but it's so hard to do in the city, man. Yo. So yeah, that's pretty much that. Shall we? Yeah, I think we can add some ad-libs, I guess. For the rest, 22 minutes is a decent episode for like an episode,